Hey guys, and welcome to the second ever installment of the Legacy Lookback series. Football season is just around the corner, so we're going to be taking a look at a game that has absolutely nothing to do with football. We're going to be taking a look at Super Mario Land, and we'll be focusing on just the kind of crazy, wacky enemies of Sarasaland. No Mario game really has such strange enemies in it as I feel like Super Mario Land does. So let's get into that by looking at the Goombas.
Just for the record here, we will be using the new names for these creatures when it was re-released on the eShop in 2011 for the 3DS. Some of the enemies got new names. For example, Goombos, as they are now called, were originally Chibibos. So these are Goombos, okay? So basically, Goombos are just smaller Goombas. They're described in the manual as timid creatures. They're kind of uninteresting, but it is interesting that Sarasaland does not have Goombas, but the Goombas. So let's move on to something more interesting here. Bombshell Koopas. Boom! He explodes. That is so cool. So Bombshell Koopas are basically like Koopas, but they have bombs strapped onto the back of them so they explode when they die. I think that's pretty awesome. I really hope they bring back like the Bombshell Koopas in like future games. I want to see more explosions in Mario games. Encountered in only the Birabuto Kingdom are the Gals. The Gals are fire-breathing sphinx-like enemies. I think they look really cool, and I'm just kind of like a fan of ancient Egypt, so anything sphinx-related, I think that's awesome. Next up are some real jerks of an enemies called the Bun Buns. The Bun Buns are basically bees that have spears, and they just drop spears at you, and they're a real pain in the ass. But thankfully, they're only in this one level, 1-2, so you don't have to deal with them for that long. Finally, we get to the boss, King Totemesu. He's basically just a larger version of a Gal. He's a large sphinx, and he can move around and breathe fire. He's pretty easy to beat, though. These skeletal fish creatures are called Honins. They're actually the skeletons of Torion, which we'll get to later, who have been eaten by Tatanga, who is the main villain of the game. These are Seadra, the Pokemon? Just kidding. Actually, they're Uraran Boos, and they are basically just fire-breathing seahorses. These short robots are called the Mikabons. They only appear in this level, and their cool thing is their heads pop off, and then they try to attack you with their heads. These are the Taurians that I mentioned earlier. They're just groups of fish that swim in threes. This octopus-like enemy is called a Gunyan. After he dies, he leaves behind a few fireballs. The boss in charge of the Muda Kingdom is Dragon Zamasu. He is followed around by a bubble named Tamao. He appears to be a larger version of Uraran Boo.
So that does it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week for another fascinating installment and a look back at Nintendo and at Mario. So we'll see you next time. Peace.